Question for the Prime Minister.
Oh, that's a promotion.
Now, in all your years of hosting Ghosts of Boyfriends past, it has been a good 4.5 years by now, I think. Liz, what have you taken? Have you had one lesson or one idea that you've taken away from this show and noticed in your own life, like you've applied it to your own world, and you're like, oh, I've picked this up from the show?
Yeah, my communication has improved tenfold. And I think that we can realize that from the last episode that I did on here, where I was talking about a recent date/hookup that I had, where my communication was it still only got a B+ from producer Zane until I argued myself up to an A-, but clearly communicating what I want out of a situation and asking questions to make sure that the other person is on the same page as me is something that I've definitely learnt. The other thing is that my friends, I've learnt, listen to the podcast and will quite frequently parrot my own fucking advice back at me when I don't want to hear it.
No, it's quite flattering.
Look, I'm just like, how very dare you? Also, I'm flattered, and also, how very dare you? What about you, Tom?
I like my general communication skills.
Yeah.
Not just in my relationship with my partner, not just one relationship, but I communicate better with my parents now than I did 4 years ago. Friendships, all across.
Setting boundaries across relationships and realizing that getting hostile because somebody's not doing the thing that you want is only because you haven't told them.
Yes, that's right.
That you like and want the thing in the first place. Of course, if you have told them and they still don't, then that's their problem.
Yes, absolutely.
But realizing that people aren't mind readers is another big thing that I've taken away from this. Is that
huge.
You communicate somebody the way that you would like to be loved, and then you've got a much better chance of being loved in that way.
And even another, just like taking action, I think. Like rather than an issue, like stewing or worrying about an issue for like months.
Stewing is such a waste of time.
And you're like, oh, but what? And but if you just address it sooner rather than later.
Rip off that Band-Aid.
Yeah, it is a kind of ripping off the Band-Aid idea, but you save yourself so much time and stress and worry in the long term. So yes, there will be a conversation that you have to have, and it's uncomfortable or unpleasant or whatever. And you're gonna cry, but it's get to it now rather than later.
Yeah, rather than sitting there feeling like you're gonna spew for 2 weeks, just do it. Spew for a minute and then move on.
There we go. So a couple of lessons actually learnt from our hosts of Ghosts of Boyfriends.
What have you learnt over the years, dear readers? Please write in and let us know. ghostsofboyfriendspast@gmail.com or any of our socials. We'd love to know if there's a specific bit of advice or something more general that you've learnt over the last 4.5 years of listening to us.
A broader application. Well,
now,
hello one and hello all.
I'm Liz Best. Well, I'm Liz Best every day, but I'm here with Tom Harris, and today we have a guest, and our guest is Brisbane musician Shane Fell. Hello, Shane.
Yeah, coming down.
Hello, Liz. Hello, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in to share your story. First of all, tell the readers, and we call our listeners readers. Tom started it. It's been happening for 4 years now. We just let it happen. Tell our readers a little bit about you.
So, as you said, yes, I'm a Brisbane musician. I've been playing around Brisbane venues, Southeast Queensland venues for about almost 10 years now, I'd say.
Yes.
Currently, I'm in a horror blues quintet called Shakespeare and the Skeleton Gang. That's Shakespeare, 2 words.
Nice.
Shakespeare is a fictional stage persona who I made up, who's an ephemeral vagabond, which is a polite way of saying he's a time-travelling hobo.
Yes.
Love it. Okay, cool. I think that's the coolest way of saying time-travelling hobo that I've ever heard in my life.
What do you play, man? Are you
Mainly guitar. I play a lot of different things, but guitar and harmonica are my two mains.
Guitar. Everyone plays guitar. Everyone wants to pick up the guitar and be the front man. But are you if a man or a partner, a prospective partner plays guitar, is that a...
Dude, I dated a bass player, so...
Yes, rightfully so. Enough love to the bassists out in the world. Mm-hmm.
All right, so Shane has come in to tell us about collaborating with partners or exes in musical ventures or just in general?
Yes, well, I feel that musical ventures are my area of expertise, but I feel like this could very well apply to many creative outlets, whether it's comedy or theatre or even creative writing, such.
And I reckon you can connect this discussion to a broader one of dating in a workplace, like in a more structured workplace.
Oh, it's interesting that you should mention dating in the workplace, Thomas, because I've just been filming a TV show where I talked about dating in the workplace.
Get out of here, Elizabeth.
Yes. So look, this is going to air next week, but in July, and I'll let you ghosties know a little bit more about it when it comes up. Last month, I flew to Sydney to be on an episode of SBS's Insight, talking. Gladly,
Very
I could
good
speak
talking.
back then, talking about love at work and a story that I have never actually told on the podcast.
So stay tuned, everybody. But yeah, so date. So.
But collaborating with somebody who you've dated or are dating and then are no longer dating, that's an interesting topic, and I am looking forward to hearing about your experiences. So where are we starting these stories?
So the main body of this story will be the course of my most recent relationship, which was a 4-year-long relationship with
we've got to tell you the rules.
Oh, that's
I've
right.
just realised.
This is a show. It has
we have rules.
People are listening to this. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, everyone.
The lawyer just came and smacked me on the back of the head. So briefly, we've mentioned the rules already to you off air, but on air, pseudonyms for anybody that you're talking about who you don't have permission to name. We armchair detectives at home who figure out who Shane's talking about. Like, don't be a dick.
Yeah, we're not here to dox and release information, email addresses, phone numbers.
That's not what we're about. We're about talking about our experiences and learning from them. And our other rule...
no threats on microphone,
I always forget that one.
Yeah, you love blocking out the no threats rule, forgetting that exists. But yes, Shane, if you can please help it, no threats on microphone.
Okay. Naturally.
So,
thank you.
4-year relationship with... Are we going with a fake name? What name are we going with?
Yes, her name was Sally.
Sally. Okay. So 4 years with Sally.
Yeah, so it started, well, rather appropriately, we met because of music, or through music.
Of course.
At an open mic night where we were both performing. I was pretty smitten right away because
Cute.
I was very indifferent to all of the acts that night. As soon as Sally came on stage, I had the hands under my chin going...
Hard eyes, like boom, right out of your head.
Exactly. So I worked up the courage. I introduced myself, and she had a friend there that night, Russell, who's a musician and a well-published Queensland poet. We got to talking. Then she invited me to a party at her place, which also musical, which was a Disney karaoke evening.
Sounds like fun. Yep. I feel like my skill set would be uniquely...
What would you sing? First up.
Your first song. I Won't Say I'm in Love, Hercules.
There you go. She's got an answer. Ready with an answer.
It's very on brand too, might I say.
It was unique that it was a lot of musicians and musical people, but there were no backing tracks, so we were all playing it. And the only Disney song that I knew how to play properly on the banjolele was what was it? Bare Necessities.
Oh,
so
cute.
Everyone loves that one. Anyway, yes.
Crowd pleaser.
Yeah. So got talking, and we had a first proper date, which was at a different open mic night, watching our friend Russell play.
Nice.
And then a second date, which was at a big event at Queensland Library in South Bank, and 2 of her friends were performing there as well. So music was a very recurring theme in our relationship. So naturally, we began talking about collaborating. We began talking about doing duets together.
There's something really romantic about that too, though, I think. Like if you find a good song and then the I don't know if anybody else who's like not, and I wouldn't classify myself as a singer, but I consider myself musical. And there's something really nice about when you're singing with someone and your voices just blend really fucking well.
Yeah, I suppose that's the magic of music, let alone relationships.
That's the whole reason musicals exist, is so that people can sing in each other's faces and have their voices blend well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you're talking about duets and what you could do together?
Yeah. Started looking at, and I believe there were mostly songs that I suggested. I think one in particular was We Are Going to Be Friends by the White Stripes, who were also a couple who made music together, then broke up and continued making music together.
Interesting.
So yeah, that song is quite a sweet song, not necessarily romantic, but definitely wholesome. If anyone who's listening knows the song, they'll know exactly what I mean. And yeah, so we sort of met, I think, August, and by December we were official. We were a thing.
Couple.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And when we was just sort of dating, I, was very patient, I suppose, with her little foibles and quirks and stuff, as you do when you're dating. There, once we sort of got more comfortable with each other and felt more comfortable opening up, which is good, but we also learned that the way that we learn songs, well, the way that we learn almost everything really, was quite different from one another. And to sort of give a bit of perspective, I have a friend, Frederick, who I've worked with in a band for a long time, and we've written songs together. Never was anything romantic there, but we're very close friends, very good friends.
Yeah.
And we complement each other, and can sort of bounce back and forth. So it's a very healthy relationship. But what I found working with Sally was that I'm used to, if we're taking an already existing song, I'm used to playing it through first and just sort of enjoying it for the love of playing in that environment. And then sort of saying, okay, well, this bit could use a little bit of tidying up. We could work on our harmonies in this particular bit, and just sort of looking at it as a whole. Whereas Sally had very clear ideas as to how she wanted it to go, and it was, no, we got to work on that immediately. So it was stop, start, stop, start.
Right.
Which was, a little bit frustrating.
If you've got a particular creative process, it can be difficult when somebody else comes into your creative sphere and has very particular ideas about how they want to do things.
And particularly if you already have a working chemistry with another partner. You said with your friend, you've got this chemistry that works for you and a rhythm and a routine, and then someone else is at the beginning inflexible or works totally different to you. Yeah.
I can relate to both, because depending on if I've sort of got a basic idea, I'll do what you do. Like, I'm not in music, but in my writing, I call it noodling, where I just kind of write it all down and then tweak when I go back and have a look at things. Whereas there are some things where I've got such a good idea of where I want it to go that I 100% will not put pen to paper until it's perfect in my head. Which will drive people nuts.
So there's probably merit in both ideas. It's just
there's ways that both ideas will drive other people nuts.
Where you collide in the middle, like you seem to at the beginning.
Yeah, and I don't think her approach was wrong necessarily, because it worked for her.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't really say anyone's creative process is wrong.
Exactly.
It's just difficult if that's not what you used to.
So would you claim that frustration came from inflexibility on her part and you in the way it worked? Or
honestly, I think so. Yeah, because we were, as I say, we were in the sort of throes of the relationship by this point. And so I think we were more comfortable asserting ourselves and setting boundaries as well. So yeah, I think that, and that's not to say that it didn't work, because it did work for quite a while. We had quite a few songs that we duetted on and did special performances. It was always something that it was becoming a chore, not something that I was looking forward to. So, I can't wait to get in with Sally and
to make beautiful music together.
Exactly. It was becoming less romantic, and it was feeling more like work.
So can I ask, when you butt heads over a particular song or collaboration, how does that energy then flow into your relationship once you go back to everyday life?
Honestly, for the most part, we were sort of able to leave it in the room.
Okay. That's mostly healthy.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, respectively. But because we kind of both acknowledged that we had different approaches. And so both of us were making compromises to meet each other halfway.
Right.
And as I say, sometimes it worked quite well because, we had some cool performances, like we did gigs together and such. But yeah, it was just kind of growing, the feeling like work, as I say. Another twist which happened there, because when I first met her, Sally was a ukulele player. And uniquely, she is left-handed, but she was playing the uke right-handed.
Playing right-handed, yep.
Which is why I didn't know that she was left-handed until we were dating for about 8 weeks.
Oh, right.
Yes. So,
that's pretty talented. I can't. I'm left-handed and I can't do shit with my right hand. Like it just is like just hanging there. It doesn't do anything.
yeah, the reason that you strum with your dominant hand is because you have more rhythm control on that hand. So her rhythm tended to be this kind of one strumming pattern that she could do with the non-dominant hand. But eventually, unfortunately, she got RSI in
I hate that.
wrist.
Yeah.
So she decided to put the ukulele down, and she expressed to me frequently that she wanted to pick up the guitar and learn it left-handed to sort of counteract that a bit. And so, being the boyfriend that I was, I had an old classical guitar of mine, which I was not really using and was a good instrument to learn on. So I gifted that to her.
Oh.
I think it was a Christmas present. Doesn't really matter. And I had it converted and set up to a lefty because I'm right-handed. And further than that, I also offered to give her lessons.
So it's quite sweet. Here's a guitar. I'm going to teach you. I've got it restrung to. So it's quite a nice gesture.
There's a butt coming.
There is a large butt coming. There's a large butt, but in hindsight, what I didn't realize at the time was that, first of all, that in offering a teaching scenario, that I was sort of creating this kind of imbalance in that scenario, that I'm the teacher and I know what's best, and you really have to listen to me in order to get the best out of this. But I think greater than that, even if I hadn't done that, just giving the guitar in the first place, I think was a bit too much in a way, because I was sort of, in a way, I was putting this expectation upon her that she would be using it and would be learning, because she hadn't bought one herself yet, even though she'd been saying this for a long time. So,
and I feel that, look, I once mentioned to my parents that I thought bass was a really cool instrument, and so they bought me a bass guitar, and then I just felt the crushing guilt of the fact that I now had to learn an activity, even though I had said it would be really fun, because it would have been, but also I had no time or will to play.
The bass guitar is such a wonderful. Coming back to the defense of the bass guitar, as a bassist myself,
I'm a big fan of bass guitars. I'm a big fan of I'm a big fan of music. If
you ever want to be ignored by every fan in the audience, play the bass guitar, because they've got eyes.
You're talking to someone who dated a bass guitarist.
Exception to the rule. So, did lessons accrue? Did you end up teaching her? Did that happen, or did something interfere?
Did you have to push her into lessons?
Yeah,
I did a little bit, yes.
Right.
So we did organise times, and I at the time I was also giving lessons to other people. So I thought I had experience. But again, teaching someone who you don't know from a bar of soap and has just replied to your Facebook ad is very different to teaching someone or imparting knowledge onto someone who you consider to be a romantic partner, you then to consider to be an equal.
Yes.
And who is yeah. So
this is where they say don't date when there's a power imbalance, friends.
yes,
But yeah, these guitar lessons is the power imbalance, because you start a relationship equals, you start working on material together as equals, collaborating. So that all stays the same. But then a guitar lesson things up. So that's the dynamic.
And I do know people where it has worked, where they, you know, I know a couple of couples where, you know, like one of them is let's say a singing teacher, and then another person will take lessons from them, but they learn in a similar way. They've decided that this person is the person that they want to teach them, not because it's been said, I will teach you. It's been chosen. And there's once that studio door is closed, they are in a teacher-student relationship, and you cannot let anything come into that room that's not that. So I imagine that's not what happened.
honestly, from what I remember, this was a little while ago, but from what I remember, I feel like I was not willing to sort of push as much or try to drive her too hard in comparison to what I might do to some of the other people that I was teaching. And yeah, I think that only just made the situation worse, because it was hard to know what the experience was like for her from my perspective. But if it's going in half measured, then why am I even there? She'd be better off learning from somebody else who, and again, as I said, we learn in different ways. She and I did. So yeah, it was got a bit uncomfortable. The lessons didn't last. She also sort of wanted to better her singing, so that's kind of where her focus went.
Right.
And she got singing lessons from elsewhere. And I'd have vocal lessons myself, but I knew that, you know, she was a soprano. I'm a bass baritone. I'm a bass baritone. So yeah, I knew that she would be better off with someone who actually understood that. So yeah, and so she was also in a choir. She gathered an appreciation for, and it was beautiful to watch unfold, an appreciation for classical styles and operatic styles and such. But the thing with those particular avenues of music is that they are incredibly precise. There's not a lot of wiggle room.
It's disciplined, and you have to be good, and you have to, and you have to. There's an application and a level quite high.
Yeah, and for Sally, that suited her just fine because it suited the way that she learned and the way that she processed and the way that she understood music. But for me, I'm more in the blues, jazz, rock and roll type of field where it's less precise, more about expression and about spontaneity, creativity in the moment,
energy, combustion. Very good.
Yeah, and you don't always have to be in tune as a blues singer, and you make a mistake in a solo, you do something that makes it not look like a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of our paths were sort of diverging a bit, and it all sort of came to a point where it was more apparent to me than anything else, because she had done shows in this choir that I at QPAC and such, and I had gone and seen her, and I thought it was magnificent. I mean, I couldn't really see her from where I was sitting. She was about
a pinprick.
A pinprick from
sitting up in the gods.
Exactly. Yes. So it was quite different to the more intimate venues that I'm used to. But anyway, so this one particular year, 2019 it was, I used to play music around about once a month for this organisation called the Queensland Pioneer Steam Railway.
Okay.
Which is out at Ipswich/Swanbank. If you love vintage locomotives and old railways, then this is a bit of a shout out for you. Lots of people on the spectrum love that, which I am. So
yeah.
Anyway, so I used to play music on the platform, and the whole thing is run by volunteers. I thought it was fine that I never got paid because I just considered myself another volunteer.
Of course.
So yeah, one particular year I was organised to be playing there, and it happened to fall on my actual birthday.
Right.
And so the fellow who ran it, he did a special gift. He said, I'll give you a cab ride in the locomotive, steam locomotive, which my inner 5-year-old
Yeah.
was losing his mind.
I mean, shit, I don't even really love steam locomotives, and even I'd be going like, heck yeah.
If the whistle goes, I'm losing my mind. That's what I'd be saying.
I did get to blow the whistle,
Yes.
which was
lucky SOB.
which was that's crossed off the bucket list. So
Amazing.
it was, anyway, yeah. So to make it extra special, I invited a bunch of friends, and we would have a full band jam essentially on the platform. In the style of, and I was inspired by this particular blues, gospel, rock and roll singer called Sister Rosetta Tharpe. If you don't know who she is the woman who basically gave us rock and roll.
Oh, big call.
Before Chuck Berry, before Elvis Presley, before Little Richard, she inspired all those guys. But there's some great footage of her, and it's on YouTube now, playing on a station platform in 1963 in the United Kingdom, in Manchester. It was a special tour of the United Kingdom with a bunch of blues superstars, Muddy
You can
Waters.
send me the link to that. I will put it in the show
I
notes.
certainly shall.
Yeah.
I'll spread the good word of
Yeah,
Sister
do
Rosetta
it.
Tharpe. But yeah, she played the electric guitar like nobody else of the time, and she was very influential. And so, in fact, I actually own one of the guitars not the exact one, but the same model that she played, and I wanted to sort of evoke that kind of spirit.
Yeah.
So naturally, we played a couple of her songs, and they're like blues and gospel songs. So, Didn't It Rain? And so we got there, and Sally had agreed to be the singer because I can't sing like Sister Rosetta.
Yeah.
I might play guitar, but I can't sing like her. So she was the vocalist essentially. And so got there. My plan was to sort of get out of the cab once my ride was finished and just sort of stroll up the platform with her on my arm while the band was playing, and then I'd pick up a guitar and we'd just sort of get into it, and as she got on the mic.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it was all so cool in my head. And we did rehearse and everything. Rehearsal actually went not too bad. Again, considering those compromises that we were making for each other. And she learned the songs, learned the lyrics and everything. But yeah, on the actual day, everything went through. I picked up my guitar. We all started playing. My friends in the band were all playing. And she's on the mic and she sings the song very, very classically styled.
Right.
I know it's a bit hard to imagine, but as I say, in blues and jazz, there's a lot of improvisation. Way. But yeah, that was not her. That was not her style. She was singing the notes and not much more.
Okay.
And so like singing them perfectly straight.
Yeah.
And yeah, that.
And was this what happened in rehearsal as well, or was she different in rehearsal than performance?
I'll admit, I was probably less focused on it in rehearsal, but that was sort of the actual performance was like sort of the light bulb moment for me,
Right.
or the wall being pulled from my eyes. And I just sort of had that realization that she's not. I can't force her into this round peg into this square hole. That is what I love about music, any more than she could do the same to me.
Right.
And so it was after that. By all means, like again, I wouldn't call her a bad singer because she's not. She's a very good singer, just not the singer that I had I would have, not hoped for, but just that the singer that was my style.
That's the thing though. Like you can be good at different things, but just because like I'm good at writing doesn't mean that I could turn up and write a sci-fi novel. Absolutely not. Like I can enjoy them, but I can't. That's not my skill set. My skill set is, I don't know, romance and comedy.
Shane, casting your mind back, what was the relationship like outside of any creative handshaking, outside of any working together on anything?
I might have I might have actually led with that probably, but yeah, honestly, the relationship. I should preface that I had. Before I met Sally, I had another long-term relationship, which was incredibly toxic, incredibly dysfunctional.
Right.
Incredibly jealous person who I was with, and so many issues, which I won't go into now. But by comparison, Sally was, a functioning adult. So yeah,
wonderful. Tick.
Yeah, we were. Our communication was honestly as much as I could wish for. If we had any problems, then we could always come to each other and talk about them and resolve them like adults, because we didn't always agree on everything.
No, God, no.
But yeah, honestly, the way that we could approach these things was, very satisfying for me, because I felt like I could trust her with that.
Good. So it's a good. So that there's a good relationship over here, but then when you start to work together over here, then it's less certain. So it's not coming from a bad relationship and then going into a workroom together and bad things continuing. That's what I'm trying to highlight.
Yeah.
So at the end of this train platform performance on your birthday, did you put the kibosh on collaborating, or did you continue?
Essentially, I did, and from what I remember, I think I did actually bring it up with her and say, I think that we're sort of on different paths musically, and I was still willing to be like a backing musician for her if she ever needed it, be a guitar player, but I didn't feel like we were creatively compatible.
Matched, yeah.
For a while, honestly, that wasn't such a bad thing, because I was worrying less about whether I could support her by being a good musician, and instead supporting her just by being a good partner.
Great.
Yeah. Good. So that, and I think that was kind of the best place that could have led.
Yeah.
And the relationship fell apart for different reasons other than that. But I wouldn't say that making that decision, or the fact that we weren't like actively creatively collaborating, I wouldn't say that was part of the cause of the relationship breakdown. That was definitely like real life factors.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, look,
Good.
as you said, it gave you the space to be able to focus on the relationship rather than letting something else kind of creep in and undermine that when you're not collaborating. So throughout this, what would you say was one of the biggest lessons that you have learnt in collaborating with somebody that you are romantically involved with?
Yeah, and tacking on to a lessons learned, any advice for anyone out there who's in a relationship and hasn't collaborated on a creative project or a business or something, but is thinking of it, maybe they're talking about it, what would you say? What do you say to those people who are yet to do it but want to?
I would say that the lessons I learned, and that I will be carrying forward into any potential partnership that I go into in the future, would be that you sort of have to look at the person as they are and appreciate them for the things that they bring to the table.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to imprint what you would like them to be.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, it's a bit of a slippery slope, because as I said, I was the one who was suggesting songs in the beginning, so they were songs that suited me.
Mm-hmm.
And they more or less suited her as well. But
it's the more or less that I'm hearing.
Yeah.
It's always the more or less.
Yes, indeed. Essentially that, I found, what I was doing was, as I said, trying to take this square peg, put her into a round hole, and the only way that you get a square peg into a round hole is by shaving it down until it fits.
Yeah, which is not healthy at all. I think one of the lessons that I learned from listening to this story is basically that I guess musical collaboration can be very similar to just like any collaboration in life, whether it be friendship, whether it be a relationship. You can draw a lot of parallels between if your style of learning in life, it doesn't have to be music, is slightly different from someone else's style of learning. You've got to compromise and find a way that you can both learn, or make the decision that you are oil and water and need to not do that activity together, or you will kill each other.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to piece together. So everybody at home, you're in a relationship with one other person, and you've been going for a couple of years, and then you agree to work on a project together, a creative project. What do you do? Do you then, before you start for that day's work, do you say, all right, we're going into workplace mode and we're going to be workplace people now? And with the
You have to.
And
I
so
think.
it is a conversation like that before you start, before every practice, every time you get together. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out.
I talk about this on the TV show SBS's Insight. Yes. I worked in the same team as somebody that I dated at my actual paid job. So not a creative collaboration, but like a big girl, big boy job. And we definitely had to put a kibosh. I keep saying kibosh. Why am I obsessed with that this episode?
Word of the day.
We had to put the cap on any kind of relationship issues, because at one point when we moved to another city and started working together, he was my shift supervisor for a couple of shifts.
Yeah, right.
So I had to go from being equals with this person to taking advice and taking direction, and we're like, no holding hands, no kissing, no like anything in the break room, not just because it would make everyone else vomit, but because like this was not the place. And then there was one time, and I still remember this so vividly, and it pissed me off, is that I was working and he came in and he goes, look at my girl sitting there working away. And I was like,
Wonderful.
You have just undermined any authority that I have. He's like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm your little girl working away like a little Miss Secretary in the 1960s. It infuriated me.
Rightfully so. What a
I love the fact
blunder.
that you both went, no. I just feel really vindicated by that.
We were both sucking through our teeth. We both did the exact same thing.
Yeah. And he actually thought that he'd paid me a really large compliment, like, oh, look at my girl. I'm like, no, I'm working.
Swing and a miss there. So unfortunately, these creative types, who don't want rules, man, they just want to vibe and do creative things, man. No, you actually need some rules and some structure and some
Set some boundaries at
boundaries.
the start.
You
Be
can't
like,
just-
if this stops being fun, let's tell each other that this has stopped being fun.
that's right.
If you learn one way and I learn another way, maybe we can go off and write our own things. And then if we want, if say, I was Sally and I'm like, if I want a little bit less rigidity, I'll come to you and be like, how do I make this feel less structured? Or you could go to her and go, how do I make this fit into a mold a little bit more?
Maybe start
and that
this-
way you can help each other without controlling each other. I don't know.
Start your collaboration small, maybe. Edit
Yeah.
this. Can you edit this?
Yeah.
Can you give this a proof?
Figure out if you can cook something in the kitchen together before you start collaborating on anything that matters.
Put together some IKEA furniture and then
Oh
worry
God!
about. Then
No,
worry about.
that's wars have been fought over less, Tom.
Nope. That's my. It's a date room, like an escape room idea. I got.
Yeah.
Like you go
Except
to,
with IKEA, you could never escape.
So
You just
before
keep
you-
going around in circles.
before you get before you marry someone, right?
Yeah.
You go to this my date escape room,
Right.
and they go, all right, you two are going to connect this internet modem together.
Oh no!
And
My heart just started
or here's a
beating.
big flat pack. You two you got an hour. The door gets unlocked when you're done. And
Is this a
that's your
thing that
test.
exists, or is this
No,
your
this is
idea?
this is
Tom's
my-
fantasy. What you should have to do before you get
No,
married.
this is a business idea. You want to test?
That's
you
a
wanna
$1 million
test your-
idea.
Copyright, everybody.
Test your resolve and your relationship. Come on in.
Yeah.
We got a children's swing set to put together. You got
or
an hour.
let your partner dress you for the night.
Oh, man! Now we're talking. All right, meeting
Okay.
after the show.
Look, thank you so much. I think it's been really valuable to kind of hear the, I guess, delineations between relationship life and collaboration life, and how you can sometimes step back from, even if you've got the same passion as somebody, you need to step back from that to be the better partner. Shane, would you like to plug your music for us again, please?
I would. Just to sort of wrap everything
Oh,
up.
yeah, let's do that
The
then.
last thing that I would like to say, and the thing I took away from, is that you can be great partners together and have a very healthy relationship, but at the same time not be creatively
In tune,
yes.
shall we say?
And honestly, that's fine.
Yeah.
And the vice versa. You can be creative together, or work colleagues, or good friends, or you might work together well, but that might not carry through to a relationship. So
I think it's kind of interesting that just because you're both interested in the same thing, you feel like you have to. What am I trying to say here? Say I like one type of movie and my partner likes another. We don't try and force each other to like the same thing. But when you like the same thing already, you just assume that they have to like it in the same manner that you do, and that's not always the case. That's sort of what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense?
No,
Am
absolutely.
I making sense?
I think there's a strong temptation to work with the person that you're romantic
like we
with.
do the same thing.
Yes,
why should we not do it together?
We're
Let's
to-
make money and be
we're-
rich and be famous.
You and I are wonderful and terrific here. Why can't we be wonderful and terrific in there? Well, maybe there's a
because you
there's
know
good
what?
reason.
Work sucks, and I would like to have a life outside of work
That's
and not
right.
have to bring my fun life into my boo life.
that's a great way to put it.
All right, Shane,
Yes.
tell us a little bit more
Yes.
about your music and where we can find you.
So yes, my band is called Shakespeare and the Skeleton Gang. So it's SHAKES space FEAR. I have to spell it that way because it is a pun on Shakespeare.
That's okay. We'll put it in the show notes so that if you didn't catch that spelling or you didn't pull your car over to write it down, it will be in the show notes for you.
Beauty. So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We're regularly playing shows. As a matter of fact, I just had a good one last night at Banshee's Bar. We have an album out on all good streaming services as well as Spotify. And, that album,
Shots fired.
That album is called "Find Me a Grave, Man."
I like it.
And so we're a horror blues quintet, which basically means we're a blues rock and roll band with very theatrical performances and bright on horror and science fiction themes.
Yeah,
if you
sounds
like,
fucking sick.
If you like Tom Waits or Screamin' Jay Hawkins, Nick Cave, C.W. Stone King, then this might be for you.
Amazing.
If it's not, please listen anyway.
Just if it's not for you, just turn the volume down and just keep it playing on repeat in Spotify or any other services that pay more than Spotify.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of listening to, thank you for tuning in once again to Ghosts of Boyfriends Past, each and every one of you. It really means a lot to us. And your task for the next couple of weeks is to write in your stories. We want them. We need you. Send them to ghostsofboyfriendspast@gmail.com.
Or hit us up on any of our socials, because basically you guys are what makes this podcast happen. We've had 4.5 years of wonderful people writing in, telling their stories, being brave, and you know, it's not that hard, is it, Shane?
No, not at all.
We're delightful, right? We say with the gun to his head.
No,
Shut up, Shane.
If you can't get to our sunny corner of the world, we can read your story out. If it's 10 pages wrong, we'll put a long.
We'll make it right.
We'll put it right and put our terrible speaking voices as evident today to your words.
Yeah, or we can Skype you in at a really inconvenient time for our producer, but he'll do it because he loves us anyway.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So everybody, share the podcast with a friend. Share the podcast with an enemy.
Yeah.
They might learn something and they might become your friend. Who knows?
They're not my enemy. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. You do what you want. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening. And just remember that if you're collaborating with someone and they're not learning the same way that you do, then maybe you're just not meant to make beautiful music together.
Lovely.